Welcome to the Ovation Healthcare Learning Institute podcast, your source for informative and inspiring conversations around the world of healthcare. Hear from the individuals and organizations making a positive impact on the industry and bettering the health and economic wellness of their communities. In each episode, we bring together thought leaders, healthcare professionals, and industry experts to discuss the latest trends, technologies, and best practices. Whether you're a provider, a patient, or simply interested in the ever-evolving world of healthcare, this podcast offers valuable insights across the entire care continuum. Subscribe today and be a part of the Ovation Healthcare journey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time joining us. We're thrilled to have you here with us as we talk about the dynamic landscape of healthcare. I'm today's host, Brittany Clark, Associate Vice President of Supply Chain for Ovation Healthcare. In this episode, we'll be speaking with Ovation's Vice President of Pharmacy Services, Dr. Chris Little. We're going to approach this podcast a little differently today by sharing thoughts from both a supply chain and pharmacy point of view. Thank you for joining me today, Chris.
Happy to be on the podcast with you again.
So to get us started, I'll begin with some questions that seem to be on everyone's mind. How do you ensure product continuity, and how is pricing going to be affected? The ultimate impact imposed by the tariff volatility depends on many evolving factors, including suppliers, their manufacturing facility locations, the health of their manufacturing relationships, if they're not the direct manufacturer of the products that they sell, country of origin of those products, not just where a component is manufactured, but where it's assembled, trade policies, the list goes on. It's ever evolving, which is why Ovation is continually monitoring the situation. Chris, from a pharmacy standpoint, how are tariffs impacting hospitals' pharmacies and their budgets?
So thanks, Brittany. That's a great question. And definitely a lot of what we're experiencing on the pharmaceutical side really mirrors a lot of what you're experiencing on the supply chain side as well. Largely within pharmacy, we're still in a game of wait and see. While we've seen tariffs placed on a number of other medical products and supplies, pharmaceuticals have maintained their place on the list of exception products at this time, meaning that while we tend to hear a lot of folks talk about what may be coming from a pharmaceutical tariff perspective, we really have not seen those yet come to fruition. I would love to say that this would occur and be the status for us long term, but I know I'd probably be wishing on a little too much at that point. What we are starting to see, though, is manufacturers start to hedge their bets and prepare for what they think some of these tariffs may bring. What we've really seen in the short term have been manufacturers bringing extra stock and supply of products into the United States, and a lot of them really going after lobbying in certain areas as well. But where this all is going to land is still very much up in the air at this point. So, Brittany, kind of understanding kind of where we're at and kind of the current state, how does Ovation really continue to monitor real-time tariff changes? And is this something we can let our partner hospitals and health systems know right away?
Yeah, Chris. So we're approaching this from a few different avenues, one of which is staying in constant communication with our partner hospitals through our client engagement team or through our monthly newsletter to ensure that they're up to date with the latest information. We rely on and value the relationships with our vendor partners. And in that, we make sure we have a deep understanding of their supply chain, the changes that they're seeing, and how they're working to mitigate the impact of these changes to the end user. We're also involved with a number of organizations that are monitoring changes to policies. And this helps us to ensure that we're asking the right questions to the right folks and can take more of a proactive approach as opposed to being reactive. We have different tools that we use in order to review the spend of the facilities within our membership to see where our most significant risks may be and ultimately develop plans to help mitigate those risks and support those folks who work every day to ensure that services can continue to be provided without interruption to those who need it. So we certainly advise our clients to continue to reach out to us as they have been, to lean on us for when and where they need support. So, Chris, are there any strategies we recommend for pharmacies during this time?
Yep. Brittany, that's a great question. So, largely what we're asking a lot of our sites to do, and honestly, one of the things we're doing as an organization as well, has just been engaging with other providers and other organizations out there in the marketplace. For pharmacy, that can include such national organizations as ASHP, HSCA, other health systems in your areas. But also don't forget about your own GPO and supply chain partners. So these are folks that have a lot of knowledge and understanding in where we're really sourcing these products and understands the intricacies and not only getting you the correct product today, but predicting where our challenges may be in getting those products kind of going forward. So for us on the Ovation side, we're really trying to collate as much of this information and really get it out to our hospitals in a very timely fashion. One of the other things that, we've wanted to make sure that we don't lose sight of, actually what we're asking a lot of our sites to do, and it's to get out there and make connections themselves with their own local, state, and national leaders as well. Really help to advocate for what the needs of our healthcare providers are, because as healthcare providers in many of these communities, we really are foundational in providing the services that they're out there, and really need to speak to the value and really the risks that are out there in some of what has been proposed. So transitioning over, Brittany, how are we helping our rural or independent hospitals navigate some of these challenges a little bit differently?
Thanks, Chris. That's a great question. Well, one of the things we're doing is our team is working with hospitals to ensure that when the opportunity exists or where the opportunity exists, that they're moving their purchases through a contract, whether it's through the EPA, which is the Elevate Purchasing Agreement portfolio, or through our GPO partners portfolio. The contracts that we have in place are robust. We seek to have language that offers price protections, remedies for failure to supply, business continuity strategies, and ultimately transparency for discussions around tariffs and their potential impact. We're also helping to provide guidance around conversion opportunities where necessary, and purchasing consolidation or diversification where it makes sense. And I would suggest that for those areas where your facility may have local agreements, ensure that you are reviewing the language, reassessing any high risk clauses like those around pricing, around force majeure, remediation, or lack thereof. I'll also add that through Ovation's Learning Institute, you can find a webinar on Contracts 101 that goes over some of these provisions and ideas on navigating agreements within your facility. So, Chris, what tools or alerts do we provide to help pharmacy leaders stay ahead of tariff risks?
Yeah. So, Brittany, I think that's a very meaningful point that we definitely want to touch on. So, first, I will just say on the Ovation side, we want to communicate, communicate, communicate. Thinking back and not to want to revisit all of the times of supply chain and pharmaceutical challenges during the COVID pandemic. But, I think we're very hopeful that we took some learnings from that. And part of that has been to really understand to a greater extent, where are we getting our supplies from? How does that supply chain really impact what hospitals, health systems, retail pharmacies are going to feel downstream? And it's allowed us to really have a greater level of understanding now than I can say where, I personally did 5 years ago. And we want to make sure that we're communicating as much of that detail out to our sites as possible. So when we think about that and how we apply much of that information, is in the pharmacy space, we almost pick which dance partner do we want to have for a certain drug. So when we think about, where do we buy a product, price is certainly a consideration, but where's that product coming from? How stable is that company? Where are they getting their raw ingredient from? And, the location of, both that finished dose manufacturing as well as the raw ingredients going to help to determine, what is that ultimate, potential tariff that could impact that product. So, we want to be able to take that knowledge and do something actionable with it. So the way that we really think about that is, choosing those vendor partners that show us the least risk or give us the greatest amount of protection. And then we want to work with those manufacturers to, make this not only a positive relationship for them, but also for our hospital sites as well. We want them to be impacted, to the smallest extent possible by any of these potential issues that could be out there. Yet the other item that we think about, is, our strategy within the portfolio may be different by product. In the pharmaceutical space, we think about what are some of the cost and supply chain drivers for a brand name pharmaceutical versus a generic drug. And they're quite different. And, in light of potential movement in manufacturing and costs and, a variety of things, they're going to have a lot of different drivers there. So our strategies around helping our sites really navigate that is going to be a little bit different. So we've really looked to figure out how do we just put this knowledge in a way that is, putting it at the fingertips of our hospital sites, but then we are also able to take that knowledge and then go and apply it to try to de-risk a lot of what's out there here in the future.
And I just want to, again, thank you for your time and your expertise. And as we begin to wrap up this episode, are there any other considerations you'd like our listeners to know?
I think that for me, the biggest thing is, I want our listeners to know that, we're here to help, support rural, independent hospitals and health systems really across the country. Folks don't need to feel like they're trying to, deal with all of these challenges on their own, because they're not. We want our hospitals and providers to be able to maintain that patient focus. That's what they're really there to do and serve in their local communities. Beyond that, I'm going to just circle back and say anything that you can do to advocate for yourselves at the local, state, federal level. Many small voices together make a much louder voice. And we definitely want to make sure that, the needs of our hospitals and providers are really heard loud and clear. So please don't be shy. I know we're trying not to be shy as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. That brings us to the end of this episode. Thank you again, Chris, for your time. And thank you to our listeners. We hope you enjoyed these insights into tariff volatility and how Ovation is continually monitoring the evolving situation. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn at Ovation Healthcare. If you found this episode interesting and would like to learn more, please visit us at ovationhc.com.